stop losses, impulse control, and steady hands. Before we talk about patterns or tools, ask yourself a quieter question. When price flickers, what does your body do? Do your shoulders lift? Does your breath shorten? Do you feel a pull to click just to relieve the tension? Most traders try to outsmart charts while their nervous system steers choices. Here at Mind Over Markets, we train the driver. We build poise first so precision can follow. If you have ever chased a move you did not plan, doubled size to erase a sting, or sat frozen while your setup passed by, this is for you. We will slow the moment between seeing and acting, read participation instead of decoration, and size inside the limits your emotions can carry. The goal is simple: fewer impulsive clicks, cleaner decisions, and a calmer account of yourself. Stay with me. By the end of this session, you will feel the gap where control begins. I did not blow up in one dramatic night. My balance thinned a little at a time, day after day. It happened when I opened the platform before I had settled my breath. It happened when a green bar grew fast and I felt my chest tighten and my mouse hand float forward. I told myself it was discipline that moved me. It was not. It was relief-seeking. I wanted the tension to stop more than I wanted a clean decision. I tried to buy confidence in the form of tools. I stacked indicators on my screen. Each one promised clarity. Each one arrived late. When a loss landed, I grew louder in my head. I would double size to win back respect from myself. I would skip my plan to prove that I could still read the tape. I would then sit in silence, ashamed, and vow to be smarter tomorrow. Tomorrow arrived, and I was the same person, facing the same triggers. I chased strength after it had already shown. I shorted weakness after it had already slowed. I moved stops because the line on the chart looked too close to fail. I cut winners because I could not tolerate the feeling of open risk. The market did not punish me as much as my impatience did. Most of my losses were not large, they were many. Over weeks, the account told a long story of small breaks in process. I blamed the instrument, the session, the broker, the news, the spread, and the delay in my data. None of that changed the pattern. The pattern was in my body. I noticed my shoulders creeping toward my ears. I noticed my jaw holding tight. I noticed my breath sitting high in my chest. The more I focused on prediction, the less I noticed these signals. The day the curve of my account finally got my attention, I asked a different question. What happens inside me 5 seconds before I click? What do I feel when price pulls away from my level? What do I feel when a wick tags my stop and reverses? My answers were simple and uncomfortable. I was afraid of being wrong more than I was interested in being consistent. I was trying to fix my mood with position size. I was using logic to justify hesitation. I was using revenge to restore pride. The charts were only a place where these habits showed up. I wanted to start over without deleting my history. That meant I had to work with what I could actually control. I picked one pattern I understood in plain language. I wrote the context it needs, the behavior of volume I prefer to see, and the condition that proves me wrong. I gave myself a wait rule that forced a second look before any click. I cut size until a loss would not change my mood for the next hour. I started a journal that did not judge results. It recorded the state of my body, the note I told myself before action, the reason I took or skipped, and the first thought after exit. I looked for 3 saboteurs that showed up most: perfection delay, payback mode, rationalized fear. Each has a tell. Perfection delay starts with, "I need one more confirmation." Payback mode starts with, "I will cover that loss right now." Rationalized fear starts with, "This is not perfect, so it is fine to pass even when the plan says act." I put a small check mark next to any trade where I felt those lines. Awareness made space. Space made time. Time made better choices possible. I also cleaned my screen. I kept structure, participation, and memory zones. I let price speak without decoration. Candles were not codes to be memorized. They were captured emotion. I asked, who is exposed here and whose belief is being punished? Wicks were not noise. They were liquidity tests. Volume was not a meter to chase. It was information about who showed up. This language calmed me because it focused on behavior I could observe. When I felt the urge to press, I used a small breath sequence. In for 4, pause, out for 6. I watched my hand relax on the desk. I gave myself permission to miss moves that did not fit my narrow plan. I reminded myself that mastery often looks boring. The first week felt slow and awkward. The second week felt boring and steady. The third week produced fewer trades, smaller losses, and a clear head when I was flat. That was my turn. I stopped trying to dominate the market and started trying to manage myself. We are not in a contest to guess the next tick. We are in a practice of making cleaner choices under pressure. Tools can summarize data, but they cannot carry you through a surge of fear. When stress rises, the nervous system narrows attention, speeds interpretation, and drives you toward relief-seeking. That's why the same chart looks different when you are calm and when you are agitated. Process first is a way to hold your ground so that analysis is not hijacked by mood. Process means a small set of behaviors you repeat no matter how the market tries to lure you. It is the order you follow before any click, the language you use to describe context, the rules that define wrong, and the size that keeps your emotions within bounds. Precision comes after poise because reading becomes accurate when the body is quiet. Instead of stacking decorations over price, begin with what is observable. Structure tells you where price has accepted value and where it has rejected it. Participation tells you who is showing up, whether moves are being carried by thin crowds or backed by size. Memory zones are ranges where pain and hope have accumulated from prior attempts. When you ask who is trapped here and who is about to breathe out, candles stop being codes and start being captured emotion. A long tail at the edge of a range often signals a test for orders and a probe of conviction, not a promise of direction. Volume that swells into a move and then dries up near a level often reveals that enthusiasm is fading. None of this requires a complex tool. It requires attention to behavior and patience to wait for your condition. Risk is not just arithmetic. Risk includes your identity collateral, the piece of self-worth you place into the outcome of a trade. If a routine loss alters your mood or your relationships for the next hour, size is too large. Right sizing protects clarity. A clear mind respects stops, accepts misses, and refuses to press in thin conditions. A clear mind knows that the goal is not to be right. The goal is to act in a way that you can repeat 1,000 times. One pattern mastered is more powerful than many new tactics. Pick a condition you can explain in plain language. Define the context it lives in, the participation you want to see, and the specific condition that proves you wrong. Give that pattern a weight rule so that impulse can't sneak in. Write these parts in a notebook you keep open. You are building a small operating system for decisions. It will look boring from the outside, and that is the point. Boredom is a sign that your brain is no longer seeking stimulation. Execution belongs to your body as much as to your mind. Use a breath cadence to widen the gap between urge and action. In for 4, pause, out for 6. Feel your shoulders drop. Feel your hand rest on the desk. Then check 3 questions. What bias am I bringing into this moment? What emotion is loud right now? Is my size within the limit that keeps me calm if wrong? If any answer points to heat, do not click. If answers are steady and the pattern is present, act once and let the plan hold. The market is reflexive and it reacts to how you see it. Your behavior changes your reading and your reading changes your behavior. Build habits that survive stress and your analysis will start to match reality more often. In time, you will notice that quiet choices create clean records. Clean records build trust, and trust is what allows you to sit still until your moment arrives, like a lake that only reflects the sky when the wind has settled. Imagine a morning where you decide to trade only one clear condition and pass on everything else. You open your platform at a fixed time, take 3 slow breaths, in for 4, hold, and out for 6, and say out loud that you will only act when your pattern and size rules align. The chart shows a balanced range from the previous session with 2 clear memory zones where buyers were trapped and forced to exit. You draw no new lines. You simply mark the upper range where failed breakouts left regret and the lower range where failed breakdowns left relief. Price opens near the middle, moves quietly, and then a strong push drills up toward the upper memory zone. Your pulse quickens. The candle grows fast and leaves a long tail through the zone, then closes back inside the range. This is hypothetical, and it stands in for many similar days you have seen. The urge is to chase because the body equates speed with opportunity. You pause. You ask who is exposed here. You note that the long upper tail suggests a probe for orders and a test of conviction. You check participation. Volume expanded into the drive and then faded on the pullback that closed back inside. For your pattern, you need a retest of the zone that fails to progress, and you need evidence that participation is not building behind the breakout idea. You set an alert a small distance below the high of the wick, so you do not stare at every tick. You check size. You state a number that keeps your mood intact if wrong. You ask the 3 questions. What bias am I bringing into this moment? What emotion is loud? Is my size within calm limits? A few minutes pass and price floats up to retest the tail. The test stalls, candles compress, volume stays muted, and then a small shift downward begins. Your hand wants to click early to avoid missing the move. You wait for your condition, which is a break back through the midpoint of the prior impulse with no surge in participation. The condition appears. You act once with your preset size and stop at the level that proves the idea wrong. You sit still. You do not look for a second entry. You let the plan hold. Your internal voice will try to bargain if price wiggles. You return attention to breath for a moment. In for 4, out for 6. Shoulders lower. You remind yourself that this is one repetition in a long series, and the story will be told by many entries, not this one. Price grinds lower as trapped breakout traders exit. You see a modest expansion in volume as they give up. You do not anchor to any profit target. You promised to let structure decide. As price approaches the midpoint of the entire range, you evaluate. Participation is rising, and you are leaning against a place where both sides often reassess. You scale out a portion to reduce emotional pressure and trail a stop to a point that protects your behavior if the market snaps. The move continues a little further, then stalls, then reverses with a sharp wick that tests your patience. Your stop is hit on the remainder. You take a breath and leave the chart on. You open your journal and write 4 lines. Body state before entry, the clearest sentence about why the condition was present, the sentence that declared where you were wrong, the first thought after exit. You also check for the 3 saboteurs. Perfection delay did not appear. Payback mode did not appear. Rationalized fear briefly tried to keep you out on the retest by whispering that you could wait for a cleaner signal, which was only a way to avoid discomfort. Awareness noted, you move on. A second scenario shows a different test. Imagine an intraday trend up from open with higher lows holding and steady participation, not euphoric and not thin. Your pattern includes a pullback into a prior memory zone, a pause, and a push with volume that shows genuine interest. Price pulls back, tags the zone, and starts to curl. Your heart rate ticks up because the last time you bought a pullback here, the market rolled over, and you felt foolish. You label the feeling as a memory echo, not a warning. You check the rules. You need 3 parts: a higher low built above the zone, a small expansion in participation as the turn begins, and a clear invalidation just below the structure. You see the higher low. You see moderate volume increase, not a spike. You set size within the calm threshold. You ask the 3 questions and wait for one more beat so that impulse does not push you. You click once. The move lifts a few points and then hesitates. This is the space where many traders interrupt their plan because the feeling of open risk is loud. You keep the stop where you said you would keep it. You let the pattern resolve. It moves, stalls, moves again, then carries into the next area where trapped sellers might give up. You take partial profit to reduce pressure and trail a stop in a way that still respects the original idea rather than hugging price in fear. Whether this trade continues or rolls over is less important than the fact that you executed your small operating system faithfully. A third scenario matters because it teaches passing. You will have days where nothing aligns. Imagine a sequence of fake swings with thin participation and overlapping candles. Wicks fire in both directions near the edges of the range. The tape feels nervous. Your plan requires either a clean probe and fail at a memory zone for a fade or a strong push and structured pullback for continuation. You get neither. You feel an itch to prove that you can read the tape anyway. This is payback mode in disguise, trying to recover dignity by action. You run the reset. Breath in for 4, out for 6. Ask the 3 questions. Bias check reveals you're bored and seeking stimulation. Emotion check says you feel restless and slightly irritable. Size check says even a tiny loss would annoy you because there is no clarity to anchor the decision. The conclusion is simple. Pass. You write a single journal line. Today, I kept my plan by not acting in noise. You step away for 10 minutes. When you return, you see that nothing was missed except stress. The point of these demonstrations is to show how observation, rules, and body regulation combine. Notice that none of the decisions relied on a perfect pattern image. Each decision used elements you can witness. Structure described where price accepted or rejected. Participation revealed who was interested. Memory zones framed who might be trapped. Wicks became information about tests rather than temptations to chase. Volume shifts helped you score enthusiasm. The breath sequence was a tool to widen the gap between urge and action. The journal captured evidence you can review later. Over many sessions, these small behaviors stack. A few more notes make the path even sturdier. If price moves far without you, you will feel a pull to jump on late. Label it and let it go. If you take a planned loss and feel a spike of heat, reduce size for the next scheduled trade, even if the plan does not require it. Protect the mind first so the plan can survive. If you notice that you are inventing extra filters to avoid acting when your pattern is present, you are likely in rationalized fear. The remedy is to act with the smallest size that keeps you calm and to log how it felt. If you notice you are enlarging size after a loss to erase the feeling of being behind, you are in payback mode. The remedy is to cap size for the next 3 entries and to write one line before each click that says what you are trying to control besides price. If you keep waiting for perfect confluence, you may be in perfection delay. The remedy is to define the minimum condition set in plain language and to act when those are present without adding more checks in the moment. The market offers endless ways to drift. Your task is to build a narrow lane and stay inside it. In time, these demonstrations will become your normal day. You will notice that clarity shows up more often when you are not chasing stimulation. You will trust your stop because you chose it before emotion took the wheel. You will feel pride not from catching every move, but from keeping the promises you made to yourself when you were calm. Your practice will live or die by how you prepare, how you act, and how you review. Start each session with a short reset. Sit up, drop your shoulders, and take a slow breath in for 4, A quiet pause, then a longer breath out for 6. Name what your body feels without judgment. Tight jaw, quick pulse, heavy chest, calm belly, whatever is true. Say softly that you will only act when your pattern and size rules are present together. Ask 3 questions that guard the gate. What bias am I carrying into this scan? What emotion is loud right now? Is my size small enough that a routine loss will not change my mood? If any answer points to heat, you pass for 5 minutes, breathe again, and let the urge fade. When you open the chart, read what is observable. Structure shows acceptance and rejection. Participation shows who is showing up. Memory zones show where pain and hope were stored. Define in plain language what your one pattern looks like in this context. State clearly what must be true and what would prove you wrong. Give yourself a wait rule so that the first impulse cannot sneak in. Use alerts so you are not glued to every flicker. Your one pattern checklist should be short and alive in your hands. Name the context that fits, such as a range with clear edges or a trend with steady higher lows. Name the entry condition, such as a retest that fails to progress or a pullback that builds a higher low with interest returning. Name the invalidation level that proves you wrong. Name what participation should do: grow, hold steady, or dry up. Cap the risk so a loss leaves your mind intact. And with the wait rule that buys you 1 extra breath before any click. During a trade, you run a composure loop. Breathe in for 4 and out for 6 when tension spikes. Keep your stop where you said it belongs. If you scale out to reduce pressure, do it for the mind, not to micromanage every tick. Do not add to win back what you feel you missed. Let structure guide your decisions rather than feeling. Speak one clear line to yourself when doubt whispers. I planned this entry, I know where I am wrong, I can sit. If price invalidates the idea, you are out and calm. If price moves in your favor, you follow your method for exit without inventing new rules mid-flight. After the trade, you write a tiny debrief while the memory is fresh. Start with body state before the click. Write the single sentence that explains why the condition was present. Write the line that declared where you were wrong. Write the first thought after exit. Then check for the 3 saboteurs. Perfection delay often shows up as, I need one more confirmation, even though the plan is met. Payback mode often shows up as, I will erase that loss right now. Rationalized fear often shows up as, this is not perfect, so I can skip, even though the plan says act. Put a mark by any that appeared. Awareness makes distance. On days when nothing aligns, you practice passing with pride. Thin participation, overlapping candles, and frequent wicks near the edges are not your scene. Run the reset, name the restlessness, and leave the keyboard for 10 minutes. Your best move is often stillness. Build a weekly review that respects behavior more than result. At the end of the week, tag each decision as strong, shaky, or off-plan, based on whether you followed your small operating system. Note simple metrics. How many impulsive entries did you avoid this week? Did you reduce size after a loss for the next setup? What was your average calm rating before clicks on a scale from 0 to 10? Use these as guides to adjust size and focus. Keep your screen clean to reduce noise. Keep a small card on your desk with the 3 questions, the breath cue, and the wait rule. Treat boredom as a friend. Boredom means your system is running and you are not hunting for stimulation. When you miss a move that doesn't fit, say good pass and breathe. The work is to repeat this routine for 10 sessions without trying to be clever. You will feel steadier by the 3rd session, you will feel calmer by the 5th, and by the 10th you will have evidence that a narrow lane and a quiet body produce better choices. This is how you turn a plan into a habit, and a habit into a baseline you can trust when the market tries to pull you into noise. Before we end, pause and scan your breath and shoulders, then let a longer exhale soften the edges of your attention. You have seen how structure, participation, and memory zones guide action, and how a small ritual can keep impulse from steering you. The work ahead is simple to say and challenging to repeat, but repetition is what turns understanding into reflex. Choose one pattern, define the context it needs, write the line that proves you wrong, and hold size inside your calm threshold. Use the breath cadence when heat rises. Ask the 3 questions and let the wait rule buy you that extra moment. If nothing aligns, pass with pride and record that choice, because stillness is a choice that protects your process. If you acted on plan today, celebrate the behavior, not the outcome, and let that feeling anchor your next session. This channel exists to help you build poise first so precision can follow, one calm repetition at a time. If this lesson earned a spot on your desk, subscribe and share it with one trader who needs steadier hands and steadier rules. Download the worksheet linked in the description to print your 1-pattern checklist, your 3 questions, and your composure reset. Join a live session if you want to practice the breath sequence and the review routine together, slowly and without pressure. In the comments, tell me which saboteur showed up this week: perfection delay, payback mode, or rationalized fear, and how you spotted it. Your voice helps others see their own pattern more clearly, and your clarity strengthens the community we are building here. This is education only and not financial advice, and your decisions should fit your means and your emotional thresholds. As you close the platform today, breathe in for 4, hold briefly, breathe out for 6, and notice the space that opens. That space is where better choices begin, and it is yours to keep every time you return to the work.